Let's go!
Oh, hey! It's an Italian plumber who eats mushrooms and grows bigger and stomps on turtles to save a princess from a big scary dragon turtle thing named Bowser. If this doesn't sound familiar, or it sounds like some sort of crazy fever dream, then you'd be in the minority because I just described the most popular and famous video game hero of all time, which single-handedly saved the console gaming industry in the United States.
It's me, Mario!
Millions of people play the games he's featured in, from the good old classic Super Mario Bros. For the NES, to Super Mario Galaxy for the Wii. Mario is everywhere, and whether you're a little kid who is playing Game Boy when he should be in bed, or a parent who thinks all these video games are rotting your kid's brain, there's more to the Super Mario Bros. Legacy than you might realize. There's a lot of history, work, and just plain love that was poured into making Mario who he is, and maybe you'll learn something about him and the people who brought Mario to life. Now, who is Mario? For those in the audience who aren't massive dorks like I am, you're probably wondering, oh, it's just Mario. He's the star of all those fun games I can actually play with my friends or my kids without getting dizzy. There can't be really more to him, right? Well, Mario isn't as complicated as, say, Macbeth, Hercules, or even Jerry Seinfeld. There's enough character to make him more than just a bunch of pixels and polygons. Mario, yeah, his last name is Mario, lives in the Mushroom Kingdom along with his cowardly twin brother Luigi, his love interest Princess Peach, and his arch enemy in the Kingdom of the Koopas, Bowser. He's a cheerful little man with a perpetual smile on his face. Even when you're plummeting him into the same hole for the same level for the 27th time, he just won't quit. Mario is a really cheerful person. His personality is also why he happens to be the official mascot of Nintendo, appearing in over 200 games and countless other forms of media. He's had his own TV show, movie, serial, and even theme park. He's become so famous that surveys conducted in the 90s show that he was more recognizable to the youth of America than even Mickey Mouse. Two people most responsible for bringing Mario to fame would be Shigeru Miyamoto, his creator, and Charles Martinet, the voice of the plumber.
It's me, Mario! Woohoo!
The combination of Miyamoto's vision and Mr. Martinet's passion made it possible for Mario to spring to the top. Now that we know a little bit more about his backstory, well, what does Mario do? Well, speaking of springing to the top, one of Mario's most iconic abilities is jumping. In a majority of Mario's games, you could see the portly little plumber leaping higher than any fat Italian from Brooklyn has any right to. From backflips, long jumps, triple jumps, and even spinning helicopter-like jumpy things, Mario has no problem getting his fat little self over any obstacle he comes across. His jumping prowess is so great. He was just called Jumpman in his original appearance in the Donkey Kong arcade cabinets. And while jumping is Mario's garlic bread and butter, see what I did there, he wouldn't be a very good plumber if that's the only tool he had for the job. As more and more Mario games came out, Nintendo had to figure out ways to innovate with Mario games and keep it exciting in the eyes of the public. So starting with the original Super Mario Bros. Game for the NES, they started including power-ups, which gave Mario new and exciting abilities. They included Super Mushrooms, which made Mario bigger and stronger and able to take a hit, a Fire Flower for him to shoot fire out of his hands and attack enemies from a distance, and a Starman, which made him glow with invincibility. With every game, they put in more and more power-ups to give Mario new and exciting ways to beat enemies and get through levels. It made everything super exciting. All these abilities gave Mario the tools and skills to tackle anything, and this essentially made him a jack of all trades. That idea actually carries over with him to the other games where he's in. In Super Mario Kart, for example, he's a really balanced character who's not hard to control at all, and he's really good for both beginners and experts alike. In Super Smash Bros., Mario also is a very balanced fighter who defeats his enemies with a variety of skills and moves that are easy to pull off, but strong enough to be a threat in anyone's hands. These games really push the idea that Mario's your reliable friend who will ease you into a game without freaking you out with all the crazy mechanics and everything that usually scares off casual players. And that's Mario's biggest role, to be there for both new and experienced players. Mario became a symbol of accessibility and reliability for people, and the image that Mario has cultivated may have actually saved video games from fading out of existence. You see, Mario as you know him today debuted during the time where the video game industry was going through what is known as the video game crash of 1983. During this time, the market for games was being saturated with a bunch of home computers and video game consoles. Most of them weren't all that good. I'm looking at you, E.T. Business analysts thought that the gaming fad was dying out and wouldn't last much longer in the United States. No one wanted to spend the hundreds of dollars for each of these consoles to only play a handful of games that were about as fun as sticking your hand in a piranha plant's mouth. And the reason for that was that many games were created just to cash in on this gaming fad, and they really sucked. During this crazy time, Mario actually made his debut in the United States when Shigeru Miyamoto, a young video game designer working at Nintendo, wanted to create a game that could compete with the likes of Pac-Man and other wildly successful arcade cabinet games. At first, Miyamoto thought of creating a game starring Popeye, Bluto, and Olive Oil, very famous characters, but that was shot down because he couldn't get the license for those characters. The roles of those three were then filled by characters he created himself: Mario, Donkey Kong, and Pauline. At first, Mario was going to be named Mr. Video because Miyamoto was going to use him for every video game he made, but he decided against that when the fledgling Nintendo had a dispute with an Italian man from Brooklyn, Mario Segale. He was the landlord of the warehouse that Nintendo of America was based at. Nintendo and Segale actually didn't start off on the best of terms because the landlord got into an argument with the president of Nintendo, Minoru Arakawa, over some back rent. They were able to convince Mario that he would get his rent, and after the incident decided to honor him by giving Mario the name he has now. Donkey Kong was a smashing success, and this led to Mario starring in another arcade game simply called The Mario Brothers. It was the first game that featured Mario as a plumber with a big old nose and a bushy mustache from Brooklyn, where he and his brother Luigi traversed underground sewers to crush turtles, flies, and other vermin. Mario was finally gaining some traction in America, right in the middle of the video game crash of the 80s. That's when Nintendo started to take advantage of the situation, and in 1985, they started to import what is known as the Famicom, which is short for Family Computer, to the United States. They called it a Nintendo Entertainment System, which single-handedly saved the console gaming industry in the United States. And along with that system, they packed in what could be considered the greatest video game of all time, Super Mario Bros. This game exploded in popularity in America, and if none of this looks familiar or sounds familiar to you, then you are hibernating under the biggest rock on the planet. It took over the gaming world by storm, and millions of people everywhere were enchanted by the simple pleasure of playing Super Mario Bros. To this day, over 40 million copies of this game have been sold, and it would forever cement Mario's place as the face of gaming for generations to come.